Welcome back, everybody. We are here for week 2, officially episode 1 of the newly named podcast. We are the Armchair Analysts. It is Grant, and I am joined with my other two hosts, Sauce and Taggart. What's going on, boys?
How we doing tonight? Feeling good? Ready to get this going again with an official name? A lot of stuff on deck today. Can't wait to get it going.
It's football time.
It's
I'm just excited. We got a lot to talk about.
So, little rundown of what's going on today. We're going to start off with college football, then we're going to transition into the NFL, and then we're going to do a couple of different segments with fantasy in mind. So, let's go ahead and kick it off with college football. You want to go ahead and take it away, Sauce?
All right. So it's quite an underwhelming weekend of college football. Not many good games. Only one ranked game, which is Penn State, Ohio State. But before we get into that game, I firstly wanted to start with the injury that happened this past weekend with Tua Tagovailoa dislocating his hip and out for the season. I mean, as an Alabama fan, really sucks to see. Can really hamper our chances at another playoff appearance. Um, Interested to hear your guys' perspective and thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge loss to you guys. There's going to be teams like Clemson, Ohio State that this is kind of their opportunity. They're seeking, their championship, and it's going to be a tough one. Tough loss.
Yeah, it's a tough loss, not just for our football team, but for what the kid's done for us in general. I mean, he you just listen to Coach Saban talk about him. He's had nothing but good things to say. Um, he's always in high spirits. He's always there for his teammates, even when Jalen was here. Um, it very well was the last time he ever took a snap as an Alabama quarterback. So it sucks that that's the
He's for
way.
sure entering the draft, right?
No, he hasn't declared anything.
Okay.
So it's not. It is. There's a good chance, just because. I mean, with or without the injury, his draft stock is high enough to where
Right.
he's still going to go first round. Um, Somebody will take a chance on him. But yeah, it's unfortunate. It's a freak accident, not supposed to happen. Just his leg got caught underneath his body, and somebody landed on it, and I guess he can't do much. Can't do much else other than that. But yeah, it's unfortunate. Nothing else to say. Prayers up to him. He's had surgery. He's back on campus. So
Yeah, big loss. I mean, not only for Alabama but for college football as a whole. You always want your best players playing, and when somebody gets hurt, uh, it always sucks. So transitioning from that, I guess we could briefly talk about the college football playoff rankings. There wasn't much shakeup. The only thing is Minnesota falling from 8 down to 10, and then Penn State and Oklahoma moving up one slot to 8 and 9. Top four stayed the same. Probably will through this weekend potentially. I guess with Ohio State being the one that could lose. Not that I see them losing.
It'll stay the
I mean,
same.
yeah, there's not really much more to say on that. So I guess we can go ahead and get into Penn State, Ohio State, as it's our only good game really this weekend. Chase Young is back for Ohio State. I imagine he's gonna have a big part of this game. He's gonna come out with a vengeance. What are your guys' thoughts on this, Taggart?
Yeah, I mean, Chase Young is a Heisman level quarterback who has been
Defensive end.
defensive end who's just been playing incredible. Obviously, he had the allegations against him, but I don't see that hindering his play going into future weeks. I think that Ohio State is going to roll in this one, and they're going to roll into the college football playoffs ready to go.
yeah, Ohio State closes off their year with their quote unquote toughest 2 games. Um, we saw how Penn State performed on the road against Minnesota. Ohio State's better than Minnesota. So, I mean, there would have to be a drastic change on both sides of the football for Penn State to keep Ohio State from just dismantling them. I don't really see it being close, but the quote unquote best game, I don't know if it's going to live up to other
Yeah,
top 10 games this
quote
year.
unquote. So I guess for Penn State's side of the ball, someone to definitely look out for is KJ Hamler. I mean, from the games I've watched, he seems like he's always the fastest player on the field. This week will obviously be put into question with J.K. Dobbins on the other side of the ball. But I think J.K. Dobbins, he's going to run wild on Penn State. I don't imagine this being all that close of a game. So I guess my prediction is for the game, I'll say Ohio State probably wins.
Vegas
42.
doesn't have it close either.
No,
So
Vegas doesn't have it close. My prediction is Ohio State 42, Penn State 17.
yeah, that's pretty close to what I would put it. I'd probably have Ohio State scoring another touchdown. I say it's 49 to 13. I would say. I believe that line should add up to 60. I think the over is going to hit in this game. So, but we'll talk about that in a later segment.
I'll give Penn State a little bit of credit for what they've done this year. I mean, they're a top 10 team. It's not close. I'm going to give both teams a little bit of extra credit. I think Ohio State gets over the 50 mark. I think they get to 52, but I'll give Penn State 21.
A lot of points.
Yeah, there'll probably be a lot of points scored. So that's basically gonna, wrap it up. I mean, everybody else is playing their warm-up game for their rivalry game. Clemson's on a bye this week, so nothing else very interesting about this weekend. So I guess we're gonna go ahead and hop into our locks of the week, where we are going to pick a favorite, pick an underdog, excuse me, and then pick a over/under throughout the college football slate. So to get that started, Taggart, why don't you go ahead and start us off with your favorite?
Yeah, my favorite this week is going to be the Minnesota Golden Gophers over Northwestern. Gophers had a tough week last week, had their hands full with Iowa. Actually, one that we predicted wrong. But I think they come back strong, and they're going to score a lot of points this game. I think the spread hits at 13.5, I believe. So I think they'll be rolling.
All right. My favorite on the weekend is Ohio State. They're giving it 18.5. I just said my score, but to just further explain it, I think Ohio State's just going to be too much offensively. Justin Fields has proven that he's incredible. He fits really well. J.K. Dobbins is insane. Ohio State just has so many weapons that it's going to be hard for Penn State to keep up with. And when you look at it matchup to matchup, I think it's just going to be too much. And it's at home. I think just because of Penn State is that top 10 team that they're giving them a little bit of just some cushion keeping this at only 18.5. I think they could have gone higher, but that is one of the larger spreads that we've seen within the top 10 matchup.
And I'm in the same boat as Taggart. I also have Minnesota minus 13.5. Minnesota coming off a loss, which I think could play a huge role into this. They obviously still have a chance to go to the Big Ten Championship, where they will have an opportunity to try and take off more than likely Ohio State. So they are still playing for something. Also, Minnesota's averaging 36 points a game, where Northwestern's only scoring 14.5 a game. So I just think Minnesota will score too many points. Northwestern won't be able to keep up, and Minnesota's going to run away with that. And then also, I believe, Taggart, I did say Iowa was going to win last weekend, so I think I was right on that. I'll have to go
Okay.
back and double check just to let the record show. But
I would like the record to show. Oh, I want you to look that up.
I will. I'll look it up and we'll figure it out. So moving on to your underdog, Taggart.
Yeah, my underdog in this week's matchup against Illinois versus Iowa, I actually think the Fighting Illini are a little too underdogish in this game. They're 7-3 against the spread, and they average 30 points a game. I don't know what to say besides I just had a feeling. I was looking at this game, and plus 15.5 is way too nice of a line to not take.
My underdog is going to be SMU. They're given 3.5 points against Navy. They're at Navy, so I think that they're just giving Navy the field goal advantage due to it being at home. So that means essentially that they're looking at this as these two teams are about even on paper. Navy 7-2, good team. I just SMU at one point was playing with an undefeated season. They were one of the shockers of the year, given how they performed in years prior to this. So, um, I think they, I think they go in there and take care of business. Give them the 3.5, and they leave with a win as well.
All right, well, Taggart, you and I are on the same wavelength tonight. I also have Illinois plus the 15.5. As you said, Illinois is averaging around 30 points a game. Iowa's only averaging 24. So, Iowa's coming off the big win. I don't think they're going to come into this game fully prepared. And I don't think Iowa scores enough points to win by more than 2 scores. I think Illinois keeps it close. Potential upset alert in that game. Illinois has been playing really well. So
Had some huge upsets this year. Wisconsin.
So
it
definitely a
dominated
game
Michigan
to look
State.
for. I think Illinois keeps it close. So over under to you, Taggart.
Yeah, my over-under is actually going to be the over on the Penn State-Ohio State game. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored, as all of us believe our lines chose the over in this game. I think there's just too many weapons. Justin Fields, J.K. Dobbins, Kyle Hamler. It's going to be a lot of points scored. Ohio State's averaging 52 points per game this year, and Penn State on the other side, 37 points per game. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored.
Yeah, I would agree with you. My over under, I'm gonna go to the Notre Dame Boston College game. Right now it is sitting at 65. I'm gonna say that they are going to score under that. I don't know if Notre Dame just had a pretty big week last week. They won handedly. They're given a 21-point spread with a 65 line, so they're saying that they're gonna win somewhere in the ballpark of the 40 to 20 range. Um, Boston College averages 33 points a game. Notre Dame averages 36, but Notre Dame also only lets up under 20 points a game. So I look to see that Notre Dame's defense shows up, but I think Notre Dame's offense shows up. I think Notre Dame gets their points. I think Boston College falls short, and that point total falls somewhere in the 50 range.
And then I have over 67 points in the SMU at Navy game. Both teams are averaging over 37 points a game, with SMU, I believe, averaging 45 points a game.
That's ridiculous.
SMU can obviously score very quickly, and they're averaging 522 yards a game. And obviously, Navy's defense is pretty good, as it usually is, but they do give up over 5 yards of play. So I think that will give SMU a chance to get chunk plays, move the ball down the field quickly. And then on the other side of the ball, Navy is averaging 40 or 446 yards a game, and SMU ranks 91st in the nation in defense. So I think Navy's going to be able to run the ball efficiently as they usually do, and I think both teams are going to put up a lot of points. So I believe that over 67 will hit, and I think that's going to go ahead and wrap up our segment on college football. So now we move on to the NFL. Nuts, go ahead and take this one over.
All right. NFL, let's go ahead and start it off with the game that happened yesterday. Quick little synopsis of the game. Texans won 20-17 at home. A much needed win in the very competitive AFC South. They now have sole possession of first place there. We saw DeAndre Hopkins doing his thing. Colts defense showed up when it needed to, but it just wasn't good enough. And the game ended on a little bit of a controversy with Deshaun Watson.
Yikes.
I haven't heard anything from the NFL side of things, but definitely something that possibly could have been looked at in the game. Definitely would have had some kind of impact on possibly the outcome, given the Colts could have had the ball again. Outside of that, it comes down to, I think that it's Deshaun Watson. It shows that the best quarterback won the game. The team with the better quarterback is tending to win a lot of uh, close, important games this year, and that's kind of the telltale of each division. Any comment on the Thursday night game?
Yeah, I think the Colts secondary was having some serious problems keeping Will Fuller in check. Deshaun Watson had 300 passing yards this game, and Will Fuller and DeAndre Hopkins combined for 236 of those. Just think about that.
Yeah, Will Fuller had himself a game.
He had 7 for 140. That's more than what you can ask for.
Yeah.
Carlos Hyde also had 67 rushing yards on 16 attempts. Believe he had a touchdown called back on him, but he had a good week as well.
Yeah, I mean, for a Thursday night game, it was a pretty good game, pretty low scoring. I mean, on the Colts side of the ball, I mean, it seemed just from watching that they were just able to move the ball running wise quite easily. Jonathan Williams ended with 26 carries for 104 yards and a touchdown. He was by far and away their best player last night. They couldn't get anything going in the air, and it really hurt them towards the end of the game. T.Y. Hilton had 2 pretty crucial drops, one of which towards the end of the fourth quarter that would have given them a big chunk play. I believe it was about a 30-yard pass that ended up he dropped, 4th down, had to punt, and then didn't get the ball back. So, I mean, it was a good game. I mean, that's really all I have to say on it.
All right, looking forward to the weekend. Following Saturday, we got a full slate of Sunday NFL games. Not a lot of great looking games that many people are going to be tuning into, but just a couple of games that I think are the key matchups of the weekend that we should talk about. Start off with a couple of noon games. Panthers Saints. We've got Saints at home hosting the Panthers. Saints are given 9.5 points. It's Drew Brees. It's Alvin Kamara. It's Michael Thomas. They're playing a team that just got shown up by the Atlanta Falcons, given they've had a good couple of weeks, but they had no points to show for. It's going to be another tough week for them traveling into one of the toughest places in the NFL to play against one of the greatest quarterbacks in our game. I think this is the Saints to lose if they want to play this like they're looking ahead to something. But I mean, they're gonna have their hands full with Christian McCaffrey, and it's not going to be easy. But I think it is the Saints to lose if anything happens.
I think the Saints are well deserving of the 9.5. Michael Thomas in his third season is already on pace to break the receptions record. I believe it's 162 receptions or something like that he's on pace for. He's just insane. There's really nothing that you can say that
Can prove otherwise.
prove otherwise. Yeah, Alvin Kamara is also going to have a great game, as Panthers in the past 4 weeks are last in points given up to running backs. Kyle Allen, obviously he's a decent quarterback, but he's nowhere near the caliber of Drew Brees, and I think that Saints go on to win this game.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you guys. I think the Saints will cruise in this game. Panthers, just been struggling lately. Kyle Allen coming off a 4 interception game. After his first, what did he start? 5-0, something.
Yeah.
5-0. Started 5-0. Looked really good. Looked like the guy that could truly replace Cam Newton. But after these last 2 weekends, especially last weekend, throwing 4 interceptions, it's unknown if he's going to be their guy going forward.
Panthers might be looking back.
Yeah, they might be, but who knows with Cam Newton's health. But then, I mean, as you said, Taggart, Michael Thomas with 94 receptions already this year. Just he's a beast. There's no other ways around it. And then Alvin Kamara, I thought last week was starting to look like his old self again. Looked like he was getting his footing under him. So I think, as you said, he's in for a big weekend. And Christian McCaffrey, always a weapon. I mean, look for him to probably get his – he's going to get his touches. Hopefully, for fantasy owners' sakes, gets in the end zone this weekend. But I'm with you guys. I think the Saints cruise.
All right, another noon game that has pretty good playoff implications if one of the teams could turn it around. We got Seahawks in Philadelphia against the Eagles. They're giving the Eagles 1 point right now. Seahawks are 5-0 on the road. They've got they've got one of the best quarterbacks in football right now. A defense that's starting to show back up from its old self, and it's just I think it
Are
comes
we
down
talking about the Eagles or the Seahawks?
on which side?
Or one of the best quarterbacks.
The Seahawks.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
Yeah, Russell Wilson being one of the great quarterbacks in the league. It's going to come down to if this game comes down to anything. I personally think the Seahawks win this very easily. Possibly biased against the Eagles, but I think that the Seahawks, with the weapons that they've brought in, they've got Josh Gordon out wide receiver, and they already have had Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, who've done nothing but prove themselves this year. They've got a stud replacement at tight end in Jacob Hollister, replacing Will Dissly after his injury this year. It's gonna be an offensive clinic from the Seahawks side of the ball. I don't know if the whole road trip thing, they have to go all the way across the country, but I don't know if the whole road thing is going to affect them at all, as they're 5-0 on the road this year, like I said. So I don't see this going in the Eagles' favor.
I don't think I'm biased against the Eagles. I think I'm just more biased towards the Seahawks, as Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, Chris Carson have just been performing very, very well this year, and it's shown. We'll have to see how Tyler Lockett's injury last week affects him. He was in the hospital for 2 days, so he was taken off the injury report. But it's scary wanting to play players that are just coming off those scary injuries. Although I think Russell Wilson will find whoever is on the field. DK Metcalf's gonna have a good week. I think the Seahawks roll with this one. I was actually really surprised with the line. But yeah, Sauce.
I agree. I think the Seahawks will pull this game out. I do think it will be a close game. I mean, if you look at the last couple weeks for the Eagles, their defense has started to get a little bit better after that they were routed by Minnesota, giving up 38, and Dallas giving up 37. They've given up 13, 14, and 17 the last 3 weeks. So their defense is starting to come along a little bit. I think I don't know if that's going to hold up this week going against Russell Wilson, one of the best quarterbacks in the game this year. I think the Seahawks will pull this game out, but I look for it to be a tightly contested one.
Moving on to the 325 primetime game of the week, we have America's team
Oh, shut
The
it.
Patriots?
against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots.
Well, maybe Tom Brady.
My boys are going in to Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts. 6.5-point current underdogs. We got Dak Prescott coming off a 400-plus yard game. It's not. This is going to be a low-scoring affair. I think
Over
both.
under 45.
Yep. I think both teams know what this means, especially on the Cowboys side of things. They're seeing the Eagles playing a team that they very well could lose to. So the Cowboys come into this, they win, they possibly take a 2-game lead again in the NFC East. I think it just comes down to if you put it on paper, you take Tom Brady and all of his giving credit away. You bring it down to what's going to be on the field. We don't even know if Tom Brady's going to play. He was put on the injury report list with an elbow injury. He's listed as questionable for the game. Clearly, if he doesn't play, I would assume that heavily is going to swing favoritism. Um, it. I'm going to pretend like Tom Brady's going to play.
I think he's going to play.
I would assume as well. But you look at it. Tom Brady, it's going to be Tom Brady, Julian Edelman, and that's about it. They have no offensive threat that is really going to press our worst part of our defense, being our secondary. So if teams that are going to beat us are teams that are going to be able to get deep, take advantage of our corners and safeties, and not allow our defensive line or our linebackers to take control of this game. Leighton Vander Esch is out with a neck injury, so it will be Sean Lee playing with Jalen. I think we can get some pressure on Tom Brady. I think DeMarcus Lawrence has been showing up the last couple of weeks. As biased as it comes down to, I think that our offense is just going to be too much. Okay, the Patriots have the best defense in the league, quote unquote, on paper. But you look at it, and they play nobody. They are in the worst division in football. They really don't play any high caliber offenses. He's playing against Dak Prescott in an MVP caliber year, Ezekiel Elliott, who's one of the best running backs in football, and then they have to somehow spread out their secondary to guard Amari Cooper, Randall Cobb, Michael Gallup, and I just think it's too much. I think not only are we going to cover, but we win this game convincingly. I don't think it's within. I'm not even going to say what it's going to be within. I think we win 35-17.
Wow. See, I'm gonna be devil's advocate here. I'm siding with the Patriots this game. I think their defense is too strong. They're known for taking away number one option, and them being first in the league in run defense. I think they're gonna worry about Amari Cooper. I think Michael Gallup will have a good game. I think Randall Cobb will have an okay game, but Tom Brady plays. I think the Patriots will win this game. I don't know if they're going to cover, but think they're gonna win.
Just to make sure my ears are working right, did you say 35-17?
35-17, boys.
All right, cool. I got it written down. I'll make sure to ridicule you on that next weekend. I think the Patriots will win. I think it'll be close. I think the Cowboys will cover. I mean, the Patriots defense has been outstanding this year, but I mean, as you said, I mean, you look at their schedule, they haven't played nobody. I can make the joke, they play an Alabama schedule. I mean, the one game that they lost, they were playing against the seems to be MVP in Lamar Jackson, who just ran rapid. I think if Dak can use his legs a lot this game, I think the Cowboys will have a chance. I just think in the end, the Patriots will find a way to get it done. The Patriots will win probably by, I'll say 3 points.
All right. Can I get a score prediction on you guys just so I can ridicule the backside of this?
23-17 Patriots.
I will say 24-21.
All right. It'll be a very interesting next episode. All right.
Yep.
Closing the NFL game topics off with Sunday Night Football. We got the Packers going in to San Francisco to take on Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers. The 49ers are currently given 3 points. I'm not big on the 49ers. I'm not big on Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm not big on their weapons. Their defense is something to talk about, but when it's going to come down to beating Aaron Rodgers, you're going to have to put up points. And Jimmy Garoppolo has not proven himself to do that against a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is going to have a full slate of his weapons. He's got Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams. Both are playing. Emmanuel Sanders is still questionable for the game with a rib injury. I am not sure if he's playing.
Deebo Samuel, George Kittle.
It's not a pretty one on paper for the 49ers. I mean, if they can get pressure on Aaron Rodgers, maybe. But Aaron Rodgers is one of the best clutch under pressure quarterbacks that this game has ever seen. So I think the Packers will. I don't know if this one's going to be very close either. I think it'll be a lower scoring game. I'll give it to the Packers in the ballpark of 24-13.
I think Packers going to win this game. I think 49ers are crippled, but their run game could be something to consider. Matt Breida. Packers are not good against the run this year, and I think he'll have a fine game. I just don't think Jimmy G will have his weapons going forward, and I'm not entirely sure George Kittle's going to play. I think Emmanuel Sanders will play since he seems to heal like he's going to Wakanda. Deebo Samuel, again, don't think he'll play. So I think the Packers will win this.
Yeah, I don't have too much on this. Aaron Jones has been a beast this year. It'd obviously be a tough game for him against the 49ers defense, but I think ultimately the Packers will pull this one out. I think they win a close game, probably by 3-4 points, something like that. That's about all I got on that one.
All right. Transitioning into the last segment topic of the podcast, we've got everyone's very beloved fantasy football. Beans.
Yeah.
Did you forget about locks of the week for the NFL?
Oh, okay. We're going to go back to the NFL for half a second and go through our locks.
I'll start out with my favorite being Atlanta against the Bucks. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but Atlanta's looked really good past couple weeks. Great game against the Saints, and it was a very convincing win. Also, Panthers, they looked like some hot garbage last week. So I'm going to have Atlanta beating the Bucks. in this one.
Then I have Raiders -2.5. They're at the Jets. Jets just aren't a good football team, and the Raiders are playing for something. If they were to win this game, they would take control of the AFC West. So I look for them to come out and have a good game.
I also have Oakland. I got a little bit different line. I got them at -3. I'm just going to leave it at Oakland -3. I think Derek Carr is good. I think Sam Darnold is not, and that's what's going to come down to that game.
Going into the underdogs, I have the Giants at +6 against Chicago. I think Mitch Trubisky does not get it done this week. I think Daniel Jones will be a fine play. Saquon, he's going to have a good game. Chicago's been they've been struggling on defense against the run, and I think Saquon's going to take over this game.
And then I have the Seahawks +1 at Philadelphia. As I said earlier, I just think Seattle's going to be too much for the Eagles, and I look for them just to straight up win this game. So Seattle +1.
And I'm going to side with Beans on this. I'm going to go Giants +6. No one's really talking about Danny Dimes. He's just on a bad team. It's a bad situation for him. But over the last couple of weeks, dude's been good. Dude has been fine. And Mitch Trubisky has not. He was benched for a quote-unquote injury. I wouldn't be shocked if they start going down to the Giants if we see Chase Daniel again. I think the Bears defense, as good as it is on paper, is starting to give up on them. I think the Giants will take advantage of that. I think the Giants just straight up win this game. So I'll give the Giants the 6 points and the win. Over under Beans.
Over under, I have Panthers Saints going with the over at 46.5. Not because I think the Panthers are going to score a ton of points. I think Christian McCaffrey's good for his touchdown, and maybe another one from someone else, Curtis Samuel possibly. But I think the Saints are going to have a really good game. I think Alvin Kamara he's going for 2 touchdowns this week, and Michael Thomas is good for another one.
Did you say over in that game or under?
Yeah, over.
All right, and then I have the Jags Titans under 41.5. Both teams just don't score. Their offensives just haven't looked all that great. While on the defensive side, their defenses have seemed to pick it up and play really well the last couple weeks. So I look for that to be a very low-scoring game, probably somewhere around the 20 to 17 range.
And I'm gonna go back to my favorite for the over/under: Oakland, New Jersey, New York Jets. I think Derek Carr and Tyrell Williams and Josh Jacobs are going to unleash on the Jets, but on the opposite side of things, whereas I don't think Sam Darnold is good, I think that the Jets are going to be able to steal some points for Oakland, as Oakland is quite possibly the worst defense against offenses right now. So I think that we're going to see a very high-scoring, pretty good battle. Eventually, I think Oakland is going to be the team that pulls out and away in the end, but I think the Jets get enough points to make this over hit at 46. Now we can transition into everyone's favorite topic of every week, fantasy football, week 12. Most leagues could possibly be the week before your playoffs start. Beans, run it.
Yeah, we're going to introduce a segment called Start Sit, where we will give you fantasy advice about who you can play and who you can't. We're going to start with the starts of the week. Going to have Sauce start that off for us.
All right. So I got 2 starts for this week. First, at wide receiver, I would say to start James Washington with Juju out this week. I think James Washington's going to get majority of the targets. He also has that connection with Mason Rudolph dating back to their days at Oklahoma State. And yes, I know Mason Rudolph isn't the greatest quarterback in the world, but they are playing Cincinnati. So I I think James Washington will get somewhere around 8 to 10 targets this week. Look for him to break out and get in the end zone. And then my other start is Jacob Hollister, the tight end for Seattle. Over the last 2 weeks, he has 16 targets. It's hard to sit a guy that's averaging 8 targets a game, especially at the tight end position as well. He's also gotten in the end zone 3 times. So look for him to have a big weekend. Those are my 2 starts.
My 2 starts are going to be at the wide receiver and tight end position as well. My wide receiver start for this week is DK Metcalf. Big on the Seahawks scoring a lot of points in this game. As good as Tyler Lockett is, I look to see Russell Wilson spreading the ball around a little bit. DK Metcalf has proven that in his rookie year he's good enough to be one of the go-to guys for Russell. I think he's got his trust. I think Russell looks for him a couple of times deep. And really in that it just takes one connection deep for a touchdown, and DK Metcalf looks like a very good wide receiver. I don't know if he's necessarily going to get the target rate of some other wide receivers, but I do think that his ceiling is definitely something he can break through with possibly 4 to 6 catches somewhere in the 80 something yard range, and definitely has the possibility of reeling in a touchdown.
He's the highest targeted wide receiver in the red zone this year, by the way.
Further make my case. And then my tight end start is Dallas Goedert. You've got, that's on the other side of that ball in this game. Zach Ertz obviously is tight end 1 in Philadelphia. But the more and more you watch the Eagles this year, the more and more you start to realize that Carson Wentz and his security blanket and Zach Ertz aren't connecting at the same rate they were last year. Zach Ertz just had an outstanding year last year with 100 plus receptions on the year. He's starting to get the ball to Dallas Goedert. He's a younger tight end, about the same build as Zach Ertz. I think given that they're going to need to look for weapons somewhere, given that Nelson Aguilar is not consistent and poor Carson Wentz is going to have to throw the ball to somebody. If they possibly guard Zach Ertz like a wide receiver 1 or 2 instead of a tight end, then Dallas Goedert might get a little bit more of the linebacker look and possibly get a couple of more targets and opportunities to get the ball in his hands and take advantage of the Seahawks defense.
Yeah, my starts are going to be on the same team going back to this Falcons-Bucks game. Calvin Ridley and Matt Ryan. I think they're going to have very nasty combo going into this game. Calvin Ridley is obviously the deep threat option on that team. He had 8 targets for 143 and a touchdown last week, and I think he continues that. Matt Ryan, obviously, he's got Ridley, he's got Julio, so I think he's going to have a monster week as well. Going into the starts, Sauce, you want to lead us off with that?
The
Sit.
Yes. So my 2 sits this week are going to be Jimmy Garoppolo and Joe Mixon. With Garoppolo, here's a stat for you. He hasn't had a top 15 quarterback finish this year against anybody except when he played Cincinnati and Arizona. So he hasn't showed up against the good teams. In Green Bay, stingy defense, only giving up 14 fantasy points a game to quarterbacks. So I don't think Jimmy G will have a great week. I would look for the 49ers running backs to be the ones carrying the load for that offense. And then Joe Mixon, I mean, he just hasn't performed this year. I mean, for anybody that drafted him high, really sucks. I mean, the team's 0-11, 0-10, whatever they are. They just stink. And Pittsburgh's defense has been stellar as of late and is giving the 6th fewest fantasy points to running backs this year. So I don't see him having a productive day.
My sits of the week, I'm going to start with a wide receiver. I got Terry McLaurin. I think he's going to have a tough matchup against Detroit. It's not favorable. The Redskins right now are messing around with their quarterback situation. He does have a connection there But I mean, he's going to be going up against Darius Slay, possibly one of the best cover corners in the NFL. He had to guard Amari Cooper last week and only gave him 6 points. So if you want to say that Terry McLaurin is better than Amari Cooper, then you can go ahead and start him, and we will see how that story pans out at the end of the week.
Better quarterback too.
Yeah, he does have a better quarterback. Dwayne Haskins is MVP this year. And then on my sit, the tight end position is Jared Cook. I just think that when you look at the Saints' overall game plan here, I think that the Saints are going to put up a lot of points, and unfortunately, I just don't think any of them are going to beat a Jared Cook. I think Alvin Kamara is primed for a great game. Michael Thomas eats up the ball and targets. So I don't know if there's going to be enough to pass around the table to get all these guys points. So I think Jared Cook gets the short end of that stick.
Yeah, I went with 2 wide receivers for my sits this week. Devontae Parker being one of them. He's had double-digit weeks for the past 6 weeks, but he's playing a Cleveland defense that only gives up 145 yards to opposing wide receivers. I think Cleveland's going to shut down Fitzmagic this week, and I don't think there's anything more to say about that one. Darius Slayton is my other sit this week. Chicago's run defense may not be good, but their passing defense is still strong. I think that Danny Dimes will have to find other options for this game. Moving on into our buy sell segment. This is where we try to buy or sell a line for certain players. First line, Baker Mayfield finishing as a top 12 quarterback, finished quarterback 9 last week. Sauce, what are your opinions on this top 12 finish?
I mean, going up against Miami, I would imagine this is going to be like a big confidence booster game for Cleveland. Obviously, I think they're going to cruise. I mean, if you look over the last 5 weeks, he's only had 1 week where he's been below the average line for quarterbacks in fantasy. So, I mean, I look for him to have a pretty strong week. He's got a new weapon now with Kareem Hunt that I think he will utilize a lot this weekend. So I see him finishing within that top 12. So I am buying.
I'm gonna side with Sauce on this one. If there is a game this year for Baker Mayfield to look like the number 1 pick that he is, it is this game. I think it's going to be the Baker and Odell show. Odell has been disappointing, and finally they're gonna have a favorable matchup where they're gonna be able to have their number 1 wide receiver be able to run some routes and Baker get him the ball. I think Odell has a monster week, and in turn, I think that allows Baker to also, so I will buy as well, him being a top 12 quarterback.
I'm going to sell. I think that this game will be a very quick-paced game. I think Kareem Hunt is obviously their third option in the pass, but I think Nick Chubb's going to have a monster week, and therefore I do not think Baker makes it into the top 12. Michael Gallup, 60 yards against New England. It's us.
How many yards? Sorry.
60.
60 yards against New England. I think I'm gonna sell on that one. I mean, New England's defense been stingy. I know that they're gonna tee off. Obviously, their focus on Amari Cooper, but I don't see him having that quite of a productive day. I would look more along the lines of Randall Cobb in the slot having a bit of a pop-off game as he did last weekend. So I'm going to sell on that.
All right, Grant.
Bye.
Who saw that one coming?
I mean, it's going. what I think is going to happen in this game is points are going to be scored on the Dallas side of the football. So that being said, I think that Dak's going to spread the ball around. He's obviously going to have to look elsewhere than just heavily targeting Mari Cooper. So I think Amari Cooper, I think, is going to be the lower yardage wide receiver, but I think at the end of it, Amari Cooper is going to be the one that gets them their points. I think Amari finds the end zone, but I think Gallup gets their yards. I'm gonna buy that, but I'm not gonna buy it a lot. I think he's in the 70 to 80 range of yards with about 5 catches.
I'm gonna sell. I think New England's defense is just too good this year, and they do take away the number 1 option, Amari Cooper. I think they'll also take away their number 2 option, and I think Randall Cobb will be that person to pick up the slack. Jared Goff, top 15 finish, or finishes outside the top 15.
Outside the top 15. I
So
think I'm
back
gonna
half
buy.
of quarterbacks.
I think I'm gonna buy on that. I mean, he's been struggling. I mean, a lot of that, I would say he hasn't been able to find Cooper Kupp as of late, who only has. I mean, 2 weeks ago he didn't have a single catch. Last week, very unproductive day, only had around 50-ish yards. I see Baltimore's defense being too stingy, and I just don't see him doing all that great. I think he'll probably throw an interception or two. Look for Marcus Peters to get a little bit of revenge on him. So I'm going to buy that he finishes outside the top 15.
Yeah, I'm gonna sell it. I'm gonna be a little bit on the optimistic side. I'm banking on this game being a points game. I think obviously Lamar Jackson's insane. They're gonna put up points. That's gonna force Jared Goff to throw. Obviously, that can go one of two ways, but I think he finally gets his connection back with all of his main guys at wide receiver and tight end. So I think Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and Gerald Everett all should have fine games, as I think Todd Gurley will be shut down. So I think it's going to be uh, not a great game for the Rams, but I think Jared Goff will look okay in terms of fantasy.
I'm going to sell as well. I think you covered everything else. Gonna go into our last one. Cortland Sutton as a wide receiver 2 this week.
I think I'm gonna buy on that one. I think he's been pretty steady ever since they sent Manuel Sanders off. I mean, I know they're going against Buffalo's defense, who, I mean, notably Buffalo always has a pretty good defense. But I think look for him to have a pretty good game. Look for him to get his fair share of targets. So I think he's definitely in that wide receiver 2 slot. So I'm going to buy on that.
Yeah, I'm selling this. This is a 9-6 game, so I'm not seeing points, so I'm selling.
I'm going to buy as well, as I have to pray that Cortland Sutton does well for my fantasy week. Moving on into our last segment. This is our DraftKings segment. We are selecting the optimal lineup for your DraftKings segment, or for your DraftKings lineup. Sauce, you want to start us off with your lineup?
Sure. So obviously with this, we're doing just Sunday games. So any Baltimore players, any Rams players are exempt from this. So start us off from the quarterback position. I got Russell Wilson at Philadelphia at 6,800. Kareem Hunt versus Miami, 5,600. Jalen Samuels at Cincinnati, 7,200. Mike Evans at Atlanta, 7,300. Jamison Crowder versus Oakland for 6,200. James Washington at Cincinnati for 5,000. Jacob Hollister at Philadelphia, 4,300. And then got Bo Scarborough at Washington for 4,200. Wow. Yeah, a little bit of a surprising one there, but he had a nice week last week in his first game. I think they're going to give him the ball against Washington. So I look for him to have a good week. And then I have the Bills defense versus Denver at 3,400.
All right, Grant.
All right, I got Dak Prescott. I'm kidding. I got Matt Ryan at quarterback against Atlanta for 6,700.
He plays on Atlanta.
Oh, against Tampa Bay. My bad. Against Tampa Bay at home for 6,700. Running backs, I got Alvin Kamara at home against Carolina for 8,200. Kareem Hunt at home against Miami for 5,600. Wide receivers, I got Calvin Ridley against Tampa Bay for 6,500. Tyrell Williams for 5,900. And we got Hunter Renfrow bottom lower at 4,500. Tight end, we're going best of the best here. We're going Zach Ertz for 6,000. Flex, we're gonna go a tight end again, given budget at Ben Watson, for 3,100. And we're gonna go the Falcons defense at home. I think they keep it up against all reliable interception in Jameis Winston for 3,500.
To finish it off, I have Derek Carr at the quarterback position, 6,100. My running backs, Alvin Kamara, 8,200, and Kareem Hunt, 5,600. Julio Jones, 8,000. Tyrell Williams, nice line, 5,900 with him. James Washington, 5,000. I have two tight ends, my tight end flex with Vance McDonald and Dallas Goddard at 3,500 and 3,700, and finishing off with the Steelers defense against the Bengals at 4,000.
All
And
right.
then,
Sauce.
to
NBA
wrap
picks.
it up, I'll go ahead
Sling
and
it in.
update everybody
Sorry,
on
Beans.
our NBA. Yeah, sorry, Beans. Our NBA lines for the past week. Grant won the week convincingly at 4-3. Myself, Sauce, I went 2-5, and Beans with a whopping 1-6. So obviously, if you're gonna take NBA betting advice from anybody, I would listen to Grant. He is
The guru.
I mean, right now he's in first place. It's not really close at the moment. He's at
So
9
sad.
and 7. He's the only positive one. So with that, obviously we're gonna keep you guys updated on that weekly, and then we'll do the same thing with locks of the week, and then we will let you guys know who ends up winning the DraftKings lineup and if we hit on our start sets. So look for that next week. I think we might try and do an episode early next week, potentially Monday night. Get that out to you guys Tuesday before the holidays, as me and Grant will be going home for Thanksgiving, so we won't be able to get an episode in next weekend. So look for us to do a little recap on
As of
Monday.
right now. I'm not counting that out yet.
Yeah, I guess there's a potential we could do one while we're all back at home together, but we'll see if the logistics line up and if we're able to get you guys one late next week. But as I said, hopefully we'll get one to you to recap the weekend. But boys, it was a pleasure. It was fun. I know for all you guys listening, we tried to keep it a little bit shorter this weekend. We failed our goal of 45 minutes, but at least it's not an hour 30. It was a pleasure. Always fun with you boys. It was great.
All right, that wraps it up. Thank you guys again for listening. However, you may be listening, whether that is on YouTube or SoundCloud, or if you tuned in live and watched the live stream on Twitch, us talk about all this. We will see you guys in the next one, and we appreciate it. Peace out.
Peace.